Yeah, I hope you're having a good weekend. I'm just going to continue to read from Tug's Trek, my memoir of moral injury, which I wrote a few years ago. Chapter 7, Settlement Hypocrisy. Taken in context, given the size of the country and the small population, Rhodesia should be classified among the greatest success stories in modern history. When UDI was declared in 1965, the British Prime Minister of the time, Harold Wilson, vowed to, quote, bring the Rhodesians to their knees within 6 months, unquote. 11 years later, the Rhodesian economy per capita of population was significantly stronger than that of Britain, and despite the ravages of the guerrilla war, wasn't showing signs of crumbling. Excuse me. If anything, the challenges made Rhodesians more resilient. For Britain and the United Nations at large, Rhodesia was an embarrassment. The economic strength and military buoyancy of the small landlocked country was in no small measure helped by the huge contribution of support provided by South Africa, who were tolerated but equally unpopular internationally due to the condemned policy of apartheid. In September 1976, in the dying days of the Gerald Ford administration in America, the uncompromising Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, was dispatched to a meeting with John Foster, the South African Prime Minister. South Africa at the time was grappling with problems of her own, not least of all the Soweto student uprising in June of that year, and dealing with the fallout following the collapse of Portuguese colonialism in southern Africa. The Kissinger meeting culminated in drawing Ian Smith into a discussion where the ultimatum was set, giving Rhodesia 2 years to achieve majority rule and bringing their war to an end. Forster supported Kissinger, and Smith went back to Rhodesia, facing the reality of losing their lifeline to survival. Betrayed by the hypocrisy of British and American politicians, and now by her closest ally, Rhodesia was finally forced to capitulate in the fight to preserve her remarkable achievements. The Bush War had taken a heavy toll on the country, both financially and on morale. With South Africa's support, they could carry on. Without it, they were doomed. Ian Smith's Rhodesian Front government reached out to prominent black Rhodesian politicians, inviting them to talk on bringing about majority rule. Both Robert Mugabe and Joshua Nkomo refused to attend the talks or have any part in bringing an end to hostilities, citing unconditional surrender as their terms. Even under the extreme circumstances of the Kissinger ultimatum, that was not going to happen, and talks between moderate black leaders went ahead without them. The Rhodesian internal settlement of 3 March 1978, reached between the Rhodesian government and the African nationalist leaders representing the black majority, compiled in every respect with the demands laid out in Kissinger's ultimatum, but was rejected out of hand by the international community due to the absence of those who had refused to participate. The answer to the settlement by the militant Patriotic Front of Mugabe and Nkomo was to intensify the war from Mozambique and Zambia, respectively. South Africa put her support behind the settlement. I spoke with Rollo Heyman over a couple of beers at the Chamber Club during a rare break from training. I was due back at barracks to fight for our future under a new government of national unity in which we expected that sanctions would be lifted and we could expedite ourselves towards international recognition. Heyman resigned from Ian Smith's cabinet and defended his decision to resign, citing disagreements with Smith. I wasn't partial to the internal wrangling that existed between Rhodesian politicians during those difficult times, but Heyman told me in no uncertain terms we were headed for a sustained bloodbath. I wasn't too happy about Heyman's decision to leave Rhodesia for South Africa. I became vocally judgmental and critical of him that evening, remaining a forthright advocate of Smith. So that concludes chapter 7. The next chapter, stay with us, stay with Tug Morkel here. We'll be going on to chapter 8, which is all about the Rhodesian SAS, of which yours truly served proudly. And there's going to be some good war stories in that one. So don't go away. Cheers.